Good evening everybody, welcome back to a Chart Nerd Technical Analysis video. Today we will be discussing Veracity. The ticker is VRA against USDT and we will be analyzing the weekly time frame. So I did post a update for VRA. This was about 2 weeks ago, and we was looking at this fractal that I've got on here, where we had this accumulation range in the prior cycles before this crazy breakout, and then we've come into this bear market, and since January of 2023, we've been in another really large sort of accumulation range that was very similar to the previous. So we had this sort of key level of resistance between the top end of resistance and the bottom end of support on both sides. So we've got this level of resistance right now that we had a deviation breakout from, and we've just corrected right back into the low and sort of this key level of support for a double bottom here. So we had this low in January 2023, and right now we've got this low, which is this inverse head and shoulders right now that I think is forming for VRA. That was the second retest on this support for that double bottom. Very similarly to back in the past, in March of 2020, we had the first touch of support on this key support and double bottom line back in 2020, and then we came back for another point of support in November 2020 before building up right here in this sort of pattern, which is where I think we are right now in this cycle. In the previous cycle, VRA had this ascending support and higher lows. It broke out, back tested the previous high, held it as support, and then went for the break. So this wasn't an inverse head and shoulders, but this was an ascending level of support and some sort of double bottom that initially led to a massive breakout. So fast forward to where we are now, I think we're sort of in the same zone between this key resistance and support, just like we was here in the past. We had this key resistance and support. We built up this second sort of base foundation after the first point of contact. Very similarly here, we've had the first point of contact, and right now we're building up the second sort of base formation. So I think the pattern that VRA is actually forming is an inverse head and shoulders right now. And in the last video 2 weeks ago, I did mention that we was sort of looking very toppy and potentially coming in for this right shoulder. So what I'm going to do now is zoom into this fractal a little bit more, and we're going to have a look at the right shoulder, guys. So analyzing a bit more zoomed in here, we can look at the weekly time frame and check out this pattern. So what I think is occurring is, I said in the previous video, we've got left shoulder support right here, which is where VRA is very close to coming back down to. And in this inverse head and shoulders, we've got a key level of support on the golden ratio, which I think we might have actually retested actually. Let's have a look. So on this pullback from the local high that we've put in, and we've run into this key resistance at 0.039, we're going from that high back down to the lows of which we've came from. We had this impulsive move up, so now we're retracing back to that low, and you'll see that we've actually bounced off of this 0.50, which is the golden ratio for support. So if we can hold support here, and if I do drag this fib over a little bit more actually to the left, you'll notice that from these highs, this is the left shoulder support too. So if we can sort of hover around here for a couple of weeks, build the right shoulder, go for the break of this key resistance, I think at that point we retest it for support and don't look back, and we're actually going to come back up to these sort of key resistance points that we've fallen from in the past, and gradually make this recovery into the later part of Q4 for VRA. So it's all about right now holding this previous, you can even see here we had this very tight double bottom pattern. We broke out, we ran into the previous resistance, and now we're just putting back to the double bottom neckline for support before the breakout. And then if we do tackle this resistance and get a pullback to support at some point for continuation, this is where I think we get really bullish going into January 2025 for VRA here. So this is something that I'm looking for on the weekly time frame, and it's just definitely something to keep your eyes on, guys. I will monitor this as we move forward, but right now so far so good. If we analyze the daily time frame, we'll see what's going on there very quickly, so bear with me 1 second. So on the daily, there was something completely different that I wanted to show you, and this was the 200 daily EMA. So the daily 200 EMA, and it's this orange line right here. Now what I wanted to show you guys was where I said in the previous cycle, I think we're around this sort of zone for VRA right now, where we're sort of underneath this 200 EMA after the first retest. So remember, this is the second retest, and this is where it sort of built up, managed to get back above, had a couple of fake outs, but eventually it reacclaimed this 200 EMA for support, and it never looked back. So I think if we're in similar sort of position and territory right now, what you'll notice is, as of recent, the local high that we've had at this previous high of resistance right here was also at the daily the 200 day EMA. So we've run into a key level of resistance, and it wasn't something that was to be ignored. We retested the 200 for the first time since losing it back in April. So since April, VRA hadn't actually come back up and retested this daily 200 EMA. So it didn't actually get to where it was, but that's where it was trying to get to, and it actually ran into resistance of this previous high. So this is where you could see the structure even more right now, where you have this left shoulder building, you've got this potential head, and right now you've got the right shoulder, which potentially is retracing just as far down as the left shoulder did. And if we can tackle out of this resistance and actually reclaim this 200 daily EMA, if we can reclaim that 200 day EMA, I think that will be a very, very bullish sign for VRA. So this is something definitely to keep your eyes on, guys, for the daily. A little bit more zoomed in. It's just watching for the break of this level of resistance, reclaiming this daily 200 EMA, and holding this level of support for this left shoulder that we have right now. As long as we can sort of start building up some sort of base in here, which it does look like right now. If I zoom in a little bit more here, actually, you can see that we have got some sort of double bottom building on the daily. So if this does break out, then potentially what we could be looking for from this low, if we do get the breakout of that resistance, we could be looking for a retest back up to this previous support, which would be a level of resistance at this point. But if we do get the breakout from this double bottom pattern, the technical target would roughly bring it back up to this resistance point at 0.00 where are we, 0.00364. So if we can get that, that would be a nice little break up from here, wouldn't it, of around, it would be around 20%. But at this point it would be all about breaking this previous resistance point. But that does look like something, if you are looking for some sort of potential entry point to get involved, if you do want to get a little short in, then I'd wait for the break of resistance on these local highs here. You can see that this sort of range right here for VRA is quite tough, and that's a very wonky line. It's been quite tough for it to break through. So if it does get back above that level of resistance and hold it as support, that could be an opportunity to go long up to this previous level of support that it just kind of fell through really fast. So it could be building up here to get the break up, come back for a higher low, and then eventually over time build up some sort of ascending support, and you've got this sort of higher low structure. Terrible drawings, but eventually once we break the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders on the 200 and the 200 daily EMA, this is where things get really exciting and the charts are extremely messy. I do apologize, but you can see we've got the left shoulder, you've got the head. Right now we're in the right shoulder looking for the build up and getting the breakout. So that's it for VRA today. Before I lose myself and go any further, guys, I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please do like, comment and subscribe from Chart Nerd TA. Take care, peace out.